some seeking adventure. And pain. Who's gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun. We vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high.
Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. And as usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up your telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything: politics, religion, socio-economic issues, any topical issue or issue trending. We speak about it. And you can introduce your own subject matter. The number to call is 4420175. We will always read some of the posts on Facebook. We encourage you to share our program and make your comments. Grenada is a very interesting country. In fact, George Brizan described it as island of conflict. Unlike most of the other Caribbean countries, we seem in Grenada to be a little bit more politically unstable. Obviously, if the British had to send 2 battleships in Grenada to quell civil disobedience in 1951, and then we had a revolution, the first of its kind in the Commonwealth, and Grenada was considered as the only socialist state within the Commonwealth. And then we had the United States of America, the great United States of America, had to invade Grenada or intervene in Grenada or rescued some people from Grenada. Depending on which side of the pendulum you sit on or what is your political inclination, one might have to agree with George Brizan. Grenada is the only country in the Commonwealth also where one political party, under the said political leader, Dr. Keith Mitchell, was able to win election on 3 occasions, winning all the seats. And it is the second time in Grenada since 1976 that we have an opposition with 6 seats and a government with 9. But this time is even new historical facts for the archives. All the members of the government is the first time they will be in parliament. And all the members of the opposition would be in parliament on more than 1 occasion. So you have on paper, you have a very experienced opposition, and you have a government in parliament that will be fiddling the way around. That is significant. In that light, we, the people of the country, particularly what we call the Fourth Estate, radio personalities, and social media warriors, we must not lose ground from that which we achieve. There are some fundamentals in life that you achieve that you don't want to lose ground on. That is why I always believe that some politicians, when they move away from active party politics, they should stick around and deal with issues that transcend political party. We have nobody in Grenada that move away from political parties that perhaps is prepared to deal with issues that transcend political party. If I had to call one, I might have said Kenny Larson, because I'm not able to identify him with any political party. And in some of my discussions with him, he seems to take a general disposition on some issues. But there are some issues that we must guard jealously. I'm a little disappointed, although not surprised, with our conventional and traditional journalists. They would lose status if they don't come back in line quickly. For almost 10 years or 2 election period, we have had what I call a plus, a great achievement, where after every cabinet meeting, the cabinet had a press conference. As if they were saying, we have nothing to hide. Examine us. We are prepared to interact with you. I also saw in the last 2 sessions, the political session I'm talking about, where government readiness to interact with radio personalities and social media warriors. And I thought that was a new stage, a new achievement in Grenada that we must never walk back from. So I take the strongest objection with the National Democratic Congress and the Prime Minister Deacon's statement or the post that is associated with him. I don't hear he disassociate himself from it, so I say it is associated with him. That they will provide information on a needs-to-know basis. I take strong objection to that. And I think all journalists should object to that too. In addition to that, I observe under the same issue, issues that was not making the headway in the campaign now seems to take front stage. That is the issue about politicians and ministers' salary. While I do not object to it, and I believe there might be a point, but I saw the objection in the past. Every time a few men talk about politicians are not paid enough, I saw the opposition members, the trade union, and known journalists attacking politician pension, saying the bread well butter, that they're getting free gas, that pox that they are getting. So this is when I look for politicians who perhaps leave the political dispensation to speak out on it. And in the last 10 years, I didn't find any in Grenada that was prepared to speak on it. There are some issues it's difficult for politicians to talk about it. They say it's nepotism. I also notice an opening salvo from the Prime Minister stating that in a small country like Grenada, there'll always be conflicts of interest. It always is managed. I thought this one came from under the belt and take front place. Because this was a big issue in the last 10 years. Nepotism. People afraid to give a piece of galvanized to their cousin because it's nepotism. Big issue about individuals that is promoted in the public service because they have their wife is a politician and their husband and the man is a politician. So public officers should suffer. And on that stage, I remember saying in a program that I would not marry a politician because you would be disadvantaged. I thought this attack was interfering with the sanctity of marriage. So no, to hearing an opposition who for years kept crying about conflict of interest, in the open salvo, when it is pointed out to them, that might be conflict of interest or nepotism. And the reaction was, in a small country like Grenada, there will always be conflict of interest is how you manage it. I would have so welcomed that when the NDC was in opposition. I would have so welcomed when the NDC was in opposition, supporting the claim that politician income should be addressed better, rather than objecting to it. I would have so welcomed if the trade union could have taken that position when the government was in opposition, when the political party was in opposition. So this is why I say we should not walk back from that which we have achieved. We must not lose ground. And one of the biggest achievements in terms of the media and freedom of information that we had in the past was the government readiness to interact with the press, radio personalities, and social media warriors. I saw in press conference where question was taken directly from social media. I managed to attend a number of sessions in constituencies and communities when they open up themselves. Even the opposition had town hall meeting. So to know, claiming that information will be provided on a needs to know basis is walking back. You see, in Tonglong, you can give me a call. The number to call is 4420175. In Tonglong. So we have some templates that we must make reference and compare with. And that is Eric Matthew Geary. That is Maurice Bishop. All the other politicians that stood very short time, they were good men. Some of them was not good relay players. When they give them the baton, he fall out of their hand. Some of them refused to accept the baton. And then Dr. Kit Mitchell, a sprinter and long distance runner. But no, so I know when I see evidence that people intend to walk back from the position. The Prime Minister, Dick Mitchell, I believe, said that he was contemplating or considering or thinking about putting legislation for freedom of information. So I think he needs to explain what he means when he says needs to know basis. Who determine what the public should know? We have a caller on the line, caller Punch. Yes, caller Punch. Yes, caller? We lost that caller. Please try again. These little things are important. You see, Dick Mitchell is an unknown entity in politics. Irrespective how you like him, he is an unknown entity in politics. So I intend to look at what he says, examine it, and to look at his utterances to try to predict his action. I believe Donald Trump was one of the most dangerous men in the world in his state because the Russians did not know him, the Chinese did not know him, no one in the world knew him, not even North Korea. And particular, they claim he didn't used to drink alcohol, but he's getting up in 3 o'clock in the morning and he's sending out tweets. And I make sure Xi Jinping waking up 3 too, and Putin waking up 3 to find out what Trump is about to say. Because he was an unknown entity. Biden is predictable. Everybody knew it. Biden would not have dared gone to Taiwan. That is what Pelosi do. So in Grenada's context, Deaton is not new. Not even among his members. He was a corporate lawyer, not a criminal lawyer. A criminal lawyer with a history, sometimes people cry on his shoulders. People lost the case and he tried to show them compassion. We have a caller on the line. Yeah, sorry. So he tried to show them compassion, but Deaton is an unknown entity. So we have to look at what he says and what he does to determine who the individual is. So I don't agree with you in walking back from such a great achievement and example in Grenada, where the Prime Minister and the other ministers was prepared to expose themselves to the press, to the conventional press, journalists, to radio personalities and social media every week after they come out in cabinet. I think it's sad and it's unfortunate if you are permitted to dilute the significance of cabinet and determine what Grenadians ought to know. You see, in the revolution, we had one radio station prior to the revolution, Radio Grenada. And it was beaten up, bashed, discredited, and it was diluted. The revolution at that time, the revolutionaries call it Radio Grenada, Radio Lionel. And after they say Radio Lionel, lie like hell. And when the revolution took place, and everybody expected that the media would have been liberalized, even Tillman Thomas was shocked. Even Tillman Thomas couldn't take it. He had to open his mouth. And all the other people in jail, sure, when Tillman Thomas opened his mouth, they jailed him, except Tillman Thomas. And he ended up in jail. And I respected this gentleman much more for that. Another stout lawyer in St. Andrews, P. himself, when Maurice Bishop threatened to jail him, because they expected that Maurice Bishop would liberalize the press and have more freedom. He did not do that. And as a result, a number of Grenadians went to jail, more than 3,000. And a similar number had to leave the country. And different politicians was hesitant and reluctant to free up the press. I don't know if you remember the incident in Telescope when they had to seize radio apparatus or tools or equipment, what name you put for what the radio people use. One of the great radio personalities now was involved with it. The man who was trained as a BBC czar. And I remember people saying they admire Francis Alexis, where the crowd around him in Grenville. And he was able to stand up and answer questions. He didn't back down. People admired him because he was not a coward. It was Kit Mitchell who liberalized the press in Grenada, the telecommunication and the press. So today, over 30 radio stations have license. Not all of them are operating. They're in and out. But they have license. And we have a freedom of the press in Grenada that is the envy of the rest of the Caribbean. So Dickson is walking back. We must not let him walk back. I understand strong members of the National Democratic Congress to stay quiet on this issue. I understand the NDC social media warriors to stay quiet. I could be in sympathy with the NNP social media and other personalities because they believe they want to extend an olive branch to Dickson. But journalists, people who claim that is journalists, and borderline politicians who claim they like to call a spade, and they are not attached to any political party. They claim that publicly. So they should point out to Dickson and the National Democratic Congress that you cannot walk back from these press conferences, particularly now when there are so much issues at hand. You don't open parliament yet. People know you're going to take some time because you're green. You could take about 3 months, 4 months. This is acceptable. You don't open parliament yet. We create a void in the diplomatic area because of the statement we made that common decency would dictate that everybody vacate the post. So you create a void. We know even though you act expeditiously, it will take about 6 months for you to settle it. So people going to ask questions on that. You promised to release the names of all who in the diplomatic area, because you publish who was there before. The only reason you publish the names and the nationality is because you intend that to be part of your policies. So there's a lot of questions people is going to ask. They will want to know, what is the foreign policy? You see, the previous NDC, they wasn't certain about the foreign policy. They didn't know if it's to hug up Alba, if it's not to lose the gift they bring for Castro, or if they must remove the flag, the American flag. They was undecided. So people would want to know about your foreign policy. So I don't agree with you in the statement that you make, which I think it is fundamental, until you give us some clarity that information will be put out on a needs-to-know basis. The number to call is 4420175, and we're going to read the article from two of the Facebook supporters, Cynthia Bartolome and Hudson George. Remind them, Mr. Pierre, who have eyes to see will see, and when the shoes is on their feet, it is another thing. We must be consistent. You expect political moving around, but there are some issues the National Democratic Congress have to be consistent on. And one of them is freedom of information. And one of them is constantly providing information to the public. The previous government was chastised relentlessly, although they had press conferences after every meeting, after every cabinet meeting. Although they had meetings in the constituency, although they radio encounters with a number of radio personalities and social media warriors, yet they was chastised mercilessly. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome. No, we ain't getting that caller. Caller, welcome. Yes, so please call us again. Caller, please call us back. We were not hearing you clearly, so please call us back. Or maybe you was not hearing us. And that post from Hudson. I listened to your program yesterday, but I was at work, so I couldn't contribute. But you mentioned Marcus Garvey in relationship to Rastafarian movement. However, the Rastafarian religion and its movement were founded by a Jamaican named Leonard Howell from a place in Jamaica called Pinnacle in 1933. I would not dispute you, brother. Marcus Garvey indicated in his writings that the black man must look for a king from Africa. And when they had the coronation in 1930, I believe, of Haile Selassie, that is when the Rasta movement started. So the actual movement was started maybe by Leonard Howell. But we believe the fact that that king was crowned in Africa stimulated Rasta, and Rasta believed that Haile Selassie was the king. Marcus Garvey didn't agree with that because he did not embrace Rasta. But that is why I draw the parallel, because it was on the question of slavery and history, and I thought as a result of emancipation, Rastaman, journalists, some politicians must know about Marcus Garvey. Sometimes I hear the quote things from Bob Marley, but originally it came from Marcus Garvey. I hear some of our politicians quoting Kennedy on education, and when Marcus Garvey quote is even more pointing because they don't know anything about Marcus Garvey. But thank you, my brother, and sorry I missed you were not able to get on yesterday. I think it is significant. We want this country to go forward. You have a number of issues that you could play politics with. But there are some issues the political party, NDC, must not walk back. And why I say that, I notice the ease with which the Prime Minister, Dick Mitchell, wants to evoke the spirit of Maurice Bishop. Obviously, he must have read the literature of Maurice Bishop. But I notice the ease with which he wants to dispense with marketing board. It is almost a paradox. If you want to evoke Maurice Bishop, and two of the good things that you could attribute to Maurice Bishop was the international airport, marketing board. Maybe the fact that you got a number of scholarships from the international community socialist country. But that has been neutralized now, because in this dispensation, we have more scholarship than any other time in our history. So two of the main issues that you could associate with Maurice Bishop now is marketing board. But in an opening salvo, Deacon is indicating that is the end of marketing board. I disagree with him on that too. You see, when we're in opposition, we must come up with suggestions to solve problem. If the LNP had dare publicly taught about dispensing with marketing board, hell would have rolled. But you who evoke Maurice Bishop's spirit, you can't do that. Unless you evoke Maurice Bishop's spirit not for genuine reasons. I don't agree with you on that. Fix marketing board. And it's not hard. I listened to my brother Carl on the radio, and he says people must come up with suggestions to solve problem. Marketing board problem is not hard to solve. And I encourage people to go to Wikipedia and find out what is the objective of marketing board. I say Wikipedia because the government never correct what Wikipedia write. You see, I'm not in a position to question these bright people on it. And when bright people don't question bright people, sometimes I quote them. So go to Wikipedia and find out what is the objective of marketing board. And all they have to do to fix marketing board is to send two people from the Ministry of Finance. You have top individuals there. To go to marketing board, spend 2 days, and give me suggestions how to increase productivity and make our middle managers more efficient. The same malady that affect marketing board is what affect Ministry of Education. The same problems that affect the Ministry of Health is what affect marketing board. Low productivity and poor middle managers. The Ministry of Finance have improved the productivity level, the efficiency, and the management by leaps and bounds over the years. Why do I say that? When you go to the Ministry of Finance, there are more professionalism. They have embraced technology more, and they collecting more government money. That is why the government go there now. And I don't expect you to sell government assets because the economy is better managed than any other time in our history. So I feel proud of the Ministry of Finance. After government pharmacists, I consider them as an example, and then the police. The police in Grenada was able to manage the crime level. That crime in Grenada is not as it is state in St. Lucia and other countries. St. Lucia to call on the RSS for help. So we have a good police force. So if you go inside there and you rumble it up, then what you're going to have, the criminals going to recognize that? You will have low morale. But the government pharmacists, the Ministry of Finance, and the police force have improved the efficiency over the years and the professionalism. So it could be done. So take marketing board and fix it. Now, one of the challenges politicians have, they doesn't think, some of them taking too long to think. If as a new team coming, you go there and you're not thinking, you're going to use the cheap method to solve problem. NDC has done it before. They sell about 13 pieces of assets in Grenada to pay salary. We have done it again with the electricity company. We had a massive rural electrification program. And as a result of that, you had shortage galore. What we needed to do was to come clean with the public and explain why we have these shortages. Yes, caller, welcome. And explain why we have these shortages. And then simple.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I enjoy you and I like to hear you, and your vibes is nice. But what I'm saying is, these fellas now come there, and they have, you know what I mean, they do all kind of thing, and I support in all what they're doing. I want to support. But I don't want to be against any politician in particular. Let me tell you something. All prime ministers that ever passing Grenada from 1961 and come back.
Your radio. What you need to do, turn down the volume of your radio, caller. Turn down the caller. Turn down.
You're trying to say one man do all this good.
Caller.
Right. So, yeah, I hear you.
The volume of your radio, you have to turn it down.
Alright, okay, good.
Right. And go right ahead.
Right, okay. That might be better now.
Yeah, brother.
Well, look, they on the block say with some fellas, and they're laughing at the program because why? It's like, here I say, that's joke. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is like, all prime ministers do good, all prime ministers do bad. Right? And in my present condition, who I am, I go through under all of them. I shake hand and eat food with Eric Gary. I shake hand and eat food and smoke ganja with Maurice Bishop. Well, H.A. Blaise, I drink champagne with him. Right? Talk about George Brizan, I eat pork with George Brizan. Right? Talk about who again? Ben Jones. You talk about Ben Jones. I used to live in Marquis. And Ben Jones and I used to sit down upstairs in the office and we talk and laugh and grin and giggle. I mean, don't tell me, man. All them prime ministers do equal good as equal bad. But if you really want to talk about, I mean, Maurice Bishop and the man thing, I don't like to hear that.
You don't
anyhow, that your kind of style, and I won't condemn you, but I enjoy listening to you still. So go ahead, them boy laughing at you. Go on, bye-bye.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much, caller. You see, Grenada is a country with a very short history. And we have a small population. And we have few politicians that when we speak about, we have to draw reference on them. We have to refer to them. So we have Eric Gary period, we have Maurice Bishop period, and Kit Mitchell era. This is the three most dynamic period in our history. The others they see trouble to make 4 years. And they was generally kind of holding the fort. They was not able to maintain stability. So when we're speaking, we have to make reference. In the same way, when we're speaking about Grenada, I always encourage people to make comparisons with other Caribbean countries. We can't speak about things in a vacuum. Now, Deacon Justridge. So we don't have no history to speak about Deacon. But we watch some actions. If the Deacon's government is going to walk back from an achievement that we take years to have, we take years for politicians to have the confidence to interact with the public on a regular basis. Can you remind me that Mr. Blaise used to have a 5-minute speech every Friday evening? You know, when people ask him no question, you know, he make a little, we used to call him Papa Blaze, make a 5-minute speech. But we reached the stage where we liberalize the technology, the telecommunication system. And for 2 terms, or maybe about 9 years, we had press briefing after every cabinet. It means that in Grenada, our politicians have developed and have more confidence in themselves. So you cannot have a young team come, that Freddie people, that is going to make a statement that information will be put out on need-to-know basis. You're not speaking about junior children here. This is big people. In politics in Grenada, I have always been saying, we are the more mature people in politics in the Caribbean. Caribbean people take a lead from Grenada. So you cannot walk in back from achievement. In addition to that, is the first time we have a transition team. People have advisors. But I support that. Because everybody green, they decide to take a chance. Word sleeping. Yeah, so they have a team. Now, you come from cabinet. What happened? You afraid? No, you can't afraid. Discuss with the transition team before going cabinet, or put one of the transition team in the press conference. Don't afraid. You're practically diluting the significance of some of our journalists in Grenada. They should be objecting to that. You can't do that. And because Deacon knew, the people in the transition supposed to help him. Tell him you can't do that. You're giving the impression that you're afraid. You're giving the impression that you want to hide information. After every cabinet session, come out and face the public. Remember, during the election, the National Democratic Congress was flaunting the town hall meeting as if the previous government did not used to have town hall meeting. They were flaunting it. Some NDC political activists was saying, you see action, we don't have nothing to hide. So I think Deacon is walking back. And because he is new, it is in our interest to encourage him not to walk back. That is what Tillman Thomas did to Bishop. And Bishop jailed him. You can't jail nobody in Grenada now. We passed that stage. But you don't want the public, or you don't want them to put unnecessary pressure on your ministers and accuse them of walking back. So this is my advice to him, and I think he have to come from us, because some of the journalists are NDC political journalists and perhaps NNP political journalists. So he have to come from these borderline people who do not openly flaunt a political party. It's not that not in a political party, you know. But they like to say they call it spade, spade. I have to tell my brother in St. Patrick's, you only call in spade, spade because you don't know why it's a shovel. But at least we have to do it. And if Deacon decide to engage the press, and he cannot determine what the Grenadian public should know. Welcome, caller. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierce.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Let him know, too, that to deal with money, you have to do it through Parliament.
We have a budget. They have a budget going on, you know. So they're working with the budget that is there. And they could go to Parliament and, yeah, where money is concerned, what happened? They don't have a problem for money. We have money.
They have money, yes.
The Ministry of Finance been doing an excellent job. Yeah, productivity have improved significantly. That's why I decided to applaud. Not today, it's a couple of years now I've been applauding the Ministry of Finance for the quality of work that they're doing. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that's very important. You see, we have been bashing this country mercilessly. You know. And I say to people, you need to be a little bit more fair on Grenada. Grenada has been doing a fantastic job. Remember, electricity, telephone, water, and internet, we're second to none. We're better than most. We're comparable with the best. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, my brother. Welcome.
I'm searching for some advice. Can you please tell me if bribery is legal in Grenada?
If bribery is legal,
Yes.
bribery is not legal in any country in the world.
Okay.
Not only in Grenada. No country in the world, bribery is legal.
Okay.
Right.
Then what I would like for the Grenadian people to do is to check the definition of bribery. That's all I have to say for now. Check the definition of bribery. They can Google it. They can use the dictionary. Check the definition. Have a good day, sir.
All right, my brother. You see, sometimes when we go and look at definition, we find ourselves guilty. You know. By the time we finish, watch the definition of bribery. We guilty. You know. You see, all man fall short of the glory of God. You know? So, no. And brother, no, bribery is not legal. And Brother Howell again, Leonard Howell, and that's the individual he says start Rasta movement, was later arrested by the British colonists and sent to jail for impregnating more than 25 women. He was later labeled a madman. Howell was influenced by the Hindu religion. Even though he was a Pan-Africanist, he did not have a dreadlock hairstyle. Very interesting. Caller on the line. Caller, welcome. Punch.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierce.
Yes, my brother.
I tend to support a lot of what you just said there. The gentleman had called a little before and said that...
You are a little low.
The gentleman had said that people are laughing at you. Well, they're laughing at good...
No, I think maybe they're laughing at the program.
Well,
You're enjoying the program and laughing.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're laughing at good things.
Yeah.
I got to know that Mr. Dixon accept that politicians need to be paid better, that civil servants need to be paid better, that the public service need to be paid better. I got to know that he recognized that. So let us hope soon from now we see better. But you have to remember that whatever pay come better have to depend on the economy of the country, where you can carry. Because if you pay people and they cannot be in a position to, the state cannot afford it, we will go back into chaos.
A lot of time, caller, ability to pay is relative. You know. If Deacon want to pay public officers better, he could do that. Even if the economy don't improve, he may just cut social program.
Well, yeah, and I'm hoping not to see those things happen.
Well, yes, because more often than not is your lobbying skill. Unless you have a politician that seeks your interests, it boils down to your lobbying skill.
I fully believe that politicians are not properly paid in Grenada. And I firmly believe that the personnel that working are underpaid when you compare us with other countries. But again, as I say, we have to make sure that...
Well, caller, one of the things we have to learn to do is to compare Grenada with the OECS, countries with similar economy. But if you compare Grenada with the United States that drop in bomb and have nuclear weapon, we're in trouble. So yeah. Grenada have to compare with the countries with similar economy. You could use Barbados on the outside as a reference. But normally we compare with the OECS.
Right.
And when we compare with the OECS, you hear me say on a number of occasions, we're second to none, we're better than most, and we're comparable with the best.
Correct. So he said that we have a new labor commissioner, and that they are working right now on a minimum wage package of a minimum wage. That means the lowest persons that is being paid will be getting some sort of relief or improvement, minimum wage. And again, I think we definitely have to move up our minimum wage. Again, I'm saying, let's move the minimum wage, but remember, let's show that the economy could carry the new minimum wage that you come with. I am for a new releasing or increasing the minimum wage, but let us make sure that we can carry. That is highly important, but we need it. So I'm glad that Mr. Dickens seen it. The past government did have a team ready and was looking at minimum wage too. So it appears that both political parties are looking at the same direction so far. I do not support Mr. Dickens in not having a press conference again only when you need that required. I don't see that. I think it's wise to have the press conference every week, the cabinet, so that we get the cabinet briefing. I'm not in favor of that part with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, caller. We're reading this one from Facebook, and it's two. Mr. Pierre, can you tell us what did Deacon Mitchell said that he walked back, as you previously said? Deacon Mitchell, in his campaign, indicated of freedom of information. There was also some word around some of his campaign agents that he was willing to legislate freedom of information. But if you had a government that had press conference after every cabinet meeting, and Deacon got to make the absurd statement that information would be on a need-to-know basis, this is walking back. This is dangerous, President. This is dangerous ground, particularly when you evoke Maurice Bishop's spirit. You evoke Maurice Bishop in the same vein you want to end marketing board as we know it. Well, the only two things now we could nicely attribute, the two tangible things in Grenada that you could positively attribute to Maurice Bishop is the International Airport and Marketing Board. And if after you just evoke his spirit, you decide to end the relationship with Marketing Board as we know it, and at the same vein you say Grenadians must have information based on a needs-to-know basis, who is determining that? That is walking back on his toe. Thank you. You have been unfair to the present administration, and I can hear your bias. We just come from an administration that wasn't transparent with the citizens. I guess this nepotism may want to put there was the order of the day. My brother, yes, I'm not fair. I want to be reasonable. So mark me, I'm a kind of black man. I'm not fair. The present administration, I observed them during campaign. Remember, Deacon is an unknown entity in politics, and every member of his team are juveniles, political juveniles. So we have to try to predict Deacon based upon what he says and what he does. And these important issues, they are not tangibles. They are principles. It is not to say like you're building a house or something, or fixing a road. You just rich. You send out for volunteers, and over 1,600 people volunteer to come to help you solve problem. But you immediately say, before they start, you're going to end Marketing Board as we know it. It means whatever team you put in Marketing Board would not be thinkers. They would be supervising the demise of Marketing Board. If that is being unfair to the administration, then I think I have to be. Tillman Thomas was accused of being unfair to Maurice Bishop, so they put him in jail. We must never support any politician walking back from their interaction with the media, social media, even how bad it is. You know, and if we're going to argue that during the previous government they were not transparent, with information. Well, it go be worse. If they visited or they exposed themselves to the press after every cabinet meeting and to social media, and they still was not transparent, well, when this government stated is based upon need to know what would happen, is a different thing, you know. So I think another Ronnie Slinger. The government just had a press conference. Hope you are listening, but you may be on a different mission. This is one of the reasons that I said, the Prime Minister said, there will always be conflict of interest in a small country like us. And he was responding to nepotism and conflict of interest. And I'm saying this is one of the challenges that we have when we're in opposition. We criticize everything. And when we're in government, we change immediately. There will always be conflict of interest. I agree with him. We're in a small country. But before, we criticize everything. And if the opposition, the NDC had supported, while they in opposition, yes, we need to seriously look at politicians' income because we don't think it is good. They didn't do that. They advocated that they're getting free gas and they're getting other perks and they are the best paid and they're corrupt and they're making money. And within a matter of a month, you make an about done. So, but I have issue with that. And I think Cynthia Bartholomew, we wait the helicopter in Pitimatnik and the 500 homes every year in Carriacou. You can't have 500 homes every year in Carriacou. That is possible when Carriacou just have about 10,000 people. No, you can't. You don't need that. That might be a political statement in the heat of things. Remember, I have a soft heart for politicians. You know? So when they make outrageous statements in the heat of things, I doesn't bother much about it. I say they just, as the Calypsonians say, political comedy. You know, I think we could do better. I am convinced that this is emancipation time, and we could do better. There are certain achievements we make we must not walk back from. The trade union like that. They like to say that. We must not lose the achievements that we make. You know? So now, one of the biggest achievements we make in terms of politician interaction with the public is the cabinet meeting, the press conference we have post-cabinet meeting. And the Prime Minister's, I think, quarterly discussion he have with journalists, and he take questions from social media. And during the COVID-19, almost every day, we had press conferences. We must encourage that. Honesto, how long is the administration in power? The administration just come, and I'm giving them about 3-4 months for Parliament to start. But they are making fundamental statements. I took objection with the statement. I thought they insulted every member of the diplomatic corps. Not the diplomatic corps, yes. You cannot say common decency will dictate that you go. That is an insult. You're making a political void. Remember, these ministers have a transition team. So it means that they're not lasering. They're not counseling with the transition team. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Yeah. Deacon, you can invoking the spirit of Morris Bishop, and he that Morris Bishop, he's speaking after that attitude. And one of the things that Morris Bishop used to say, or the PRA used to say, PRG, we go manage them. We go manage them. And so the chaps associated with the present administration, most of them, After the demise of the revolution, they went in the United States. And now they're returning in droves. They're returning now in Grenada in droves. And you can hear, oftentimes, a position is being advertised. You'll hear for those in foreign lands also, which would, of course, incorporate those that left here and went after the revolution. So they're coming now, and we're going to manage them. They want information, let them look for information. We're going to manage them. I think you better be careful too, because they'll want to manage you.
Thank you, Colonel. There are individuals in our society that cannot be managed. You know, even in the revolution, they were not able to manage Tillman Thomas. They had to jail him. You have people in Grenada you cannot manage. I'm going back to Onisto. Onisto was saying, how long is the administration in power? You and I know it takes time to put things in place. Things don't happen overnight. Remember, we had a PM who was in government for 20 plus years and so much of damages to Grenada. It's taken more than 6 weeks to fix and bring back Grenada from the damage Kit Mitchell did to Grenada. One of the challenges we have, and that's the problem, because when you're in opposition, you condemn everything. And then when you're in government now, you say you have to try to fix anything. What you need to do is to improve. That's all. You can't transform. But my brother Hudson, two main political parties have more in common than differences. Therefore, the best solution for Grenada is liberalism. If we don't liberalize society, we'll continue to argue when government change. And one of the ways is to have this interaction with the media and the public. So if this is where Deacon is wrong. He is walking back. And we must not support him to walk back. And if we argue that the previous government was not as transparent as they were, then how we could justify he having less time with the media and making the fundamental statement that information will be on need to know. We can support that. It was not in our interest. It's going to backfire. Particularly now, there are so much issues. You cannot take the position. You should not take the position that Grenadians will be given information based upon need to know. Who determines what the public needs to know? The public hope that the journalists would reflect their views. And I noticed journalists was taking questions from social media to ask politicians, and that was good. I noticed the politicians was opening up themselves to social media and different radio personalities. That was good. So you don't want Deacon, young man who says he could change things. You don't want him to start to get caught and get freed and walk back. And that is why I made this statement this morning when he said in the press conference that in a small country like ours, there'll always be conflict of interest is how you manage it. And he was responding to a journalist asking him about nepotism and conflict of interest. You know, and we reached to the end of our program, and we always very happy for our listeners, and we always take calls and try to read as much of your posting as possible on social media. Thank you very much. We're back with you tomorrow.
Through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was